Welcome, all my fellow Washington brethren and sister. I am your man and resident Washington football team fan, Lou. Thank you for joining me here on the Washington Football Report, day number 2 of OTA's involuntary minicamp, meaning it is mandatory. We just should call it mandatory minis, okay? So day 2 of mandatory minis. Tomorrow will be the final day of mandatory minis as Coach Rivera decided to cut the practices short because of such high attendance. And he's been really pleased with what he's seen to this point. So he's going to cut it a day short, which is great for the players. But day 2 was full of a lot of stuff that we can chew on. Some of it on the field, some of it off the field. I think Ron knew what he was doing too. He caused a media shitstorm today, and I think he did it intentionally. Anyway, we'll get to that in a little bit. But let's talk about on the field action first. And we start with this defense that has been outstanding to this point. Again, it's practice, and somebody sent me a tweet earlier talking about Benjamin St. Juste, the priest as I like to call him, Benjamin St. Juste, and him going out and destroying practice. He had 5, 6, or 7 PBUs, and the defense was on fire, and everybody was getting involved. And, all the beat reporters that were at practice were tweeting about it. And, they had the Oprah meme with her pointing, you get a deflection, and you get a PBU, and you get a PBU. And Rhiannon Walker tweeted out that the priest, Benjamin St. Juste, did the AI to Terry McLaurin, the AI step over of Tyronn Lue to Terry after a deflection. He looks down at him and then steps over him, and the defense went wild. So after another breakup, and he had a hell of a day, apparently, by all accounts. As you can see in the artwork, he's breaking up a pass for De'Ami Brown. So he was all over the football field, apparently making play after play after play. And the defense was outstanding in practice, reportedly, really getting the best of the offense. At one point, they were doing red zone drills to which the offense had to go back to the huddle because they couldn't properly get lined up. And Montez Sweat yelled out from the opposite side of the field, "There are no do-overs in a regular game." And Chase Young then pulls his towel out of his pants and throws it on the ground as if it is a flag. So the offense, needless to say, has a lot of work to do. And the defense is ahead of the offense. This is what we expected. And it's practice. I can't state this enough. Somebody tweeted at me and I said, you do realize this is practice, right? Not a game. Not a game. Not even a preseason game. Not even a training camp practice. It's a mandatory mini practice. It's practice. They don't have pads on. So calm down. And Ron pretty much echoed that, hey, look, man. He had a really good practice. It's just mandatory mini practice, though. We don't have any shells on. This isn't, you don't have any penalties for making, choices that you make in practice. There are no penalties for going after the football and jumping a route. If something happens, it's practice. It's totally different when there are things on the line. So, obviously, we've done this before. We did it with Jimmy in the People's Corner. And he had all these practices that he strung together, and we got all excited. What has Jimmy done for us lately? What has Jimmy done ever? Honestly, the Eagles game. There's always going to be the Eagles game for Jimmy, and that interception. So, bottom line is, don't overdo it. And I try to be the voice of reason for some of you. You get really excited about these things. Just relax. It's just a mandatory mini practice, okay? That said, you much rather see him doing this, he being the priest, Benjamin St. Juste, you much rather see him doing this than not doing this, right? So I'm excited to hear that he's doing this. We could go to the other end of the spectrum, and it could be like AGG, where he's doing nothing. And you're like, what is this guy doing? And it's nothing, or he's injured all the time. And I think I saw today that he wasn't out there today. So, look, I don't know what's going on with him. And I'm not giving up on him. You guys know that. But it's starting to get late early for old AGG there, because I told you what wide receiver coach Drew Terrell had to say about Cam Sims. And there's a lot of competition on this team at receiver, as we've mentioned multiple times, and going to continue to talk about as this offseason progresses. And so if you can't step up and find a way to make yourself productive or have some kind of a role that you carve out for yourself, whether it be on special teams or something, until you can figure it out on the field offensively, you're going to find yourself on the wrong side of the 53-man roster. But that's another discussion for another day. The defense was outstanding. The Priest was phenomenal at practice by all accounts today. And he brought a bunch of teammates with him. Apparently, the defensive line was running circles around the offensive line. We've heard this before. Remember, this was the narrative in camp last year, that the defense looks better. They're running laps around the offensive line. They can't stay in front of these guys. We've heard this before. So don't panic. Oh, my God, the offense is going to be terrible. It's a lot of moving parts, guys. I do want to mention that the starting 5 offensive linemen for these practices has been, now this is not, the final end-all be-all, and things could change. These are fluid situations, obviously, but the starting offensive line from left to right was Charles Leno Jr. at left tackle, Wes Schweitzer at left guard, Chase Roullier at center, at right guard, Brandon Sheriff, obviously, and at right tackle, they had Cornelius Lucas in. So that's what the starting offensive line looked like, right now. Obviously, subject to change. It's a fluid situation. However, that's where the offensive line stands right now. But you've got guys that are going to push those starters, that are waiting in the wings, like a Samuel Cosme, like an Eric Flowers, and, of course, Sadiq Charles. So there's a lot going on there. And, again, a lot of moving parts. Well, they'll figure all of those things out, and they'll figure out the best 5 and put them on the field and try to get them work collectively as a unit. That said, they struggled. Somebody's got to struggle in practice. It's not going to be 50-50. They're not going to split. They make their fair share of play. Someone's going to win in practice. Every day, someone's going to win. And apparently for today, and it sounds like yesterday as well, the defense has been getting the better of the offense. And good for the Priest. I want to be wrong about him. I want him to come in and tear it up. But my knock wasn't that he wasn't a good cornerback. The knock on him is that there is no ball production. PBUs are great. They're knockaways. They keep the ball out of the hands of the offense. But takeaways are even better. And so I know this guy is capable. This is a good sign. It's going in the right direction. We'll see if he continues to do this when it really starts to count. But also on the offensive side, there was a few bright spots. One in particular, Taylor Heineke had a beautiful pass to Kelvin Harmon down the sideline in tight coverage. So that was one of the lone bright spots of the day for the offense. Good to hear Kelvin Harmon's name being mentioned, making a good grab, and good to hear Taylor Heineke being able to make some things happen. And he also had a strong practice the day before, making some things happen out there and showing his wizardry. So good for him, and hopefully he continues. Because remember, there is a battle going on for the number 2 quarterback spot. That said, let's get to the post-practice pressers. We were exposed to Ron Rivera and 4 different players. So let's talk about that. Rivera, he started this media firestorm, this shitstorm, if you will, today with the talk of COVID. And I think everything that Ron says and does, to me, is strategically done. He's no fool. He's no dummy. I think he did this to apply pressure to the players, because he wants everyone in the building to be vaccinated. All of the staff is already vaccinated. The players have the option. Everybody has the option to do it, but I'm pretty sure everyone in that building doesn't necessarily believe in getting vaccinated. And they were pressured by Ron and company, and they did it just because, hey, I want to fit in with everybody. You heard him say the herd mentality, or the herd vaccination, where you get everybody vaccinated and you can kind of move a lot more freer amongst the building and when they travel out and things of that nature. So he wants everybody. It's about a 50% clip right now that's vaccinated. Ron didn't have to divulge that information. Jarrett Bell, who was the writer for the USA Today that came on the call, and Ron was so excited to hear from him. He didn't specifically ask Ron about COVID-19 and vaccine. He just asked him, how were they adjusting and how did it feel to be getting back to a level of normalcy? And Ron volunteered that information. So I'm thinking Ron did that thing that coaches do when they want to get to players. You say something in the media and you let it play out in the media. And I know Montez Sweat was not a fan of it. He wasn't happy and he made it known. And we're going to talk about that in a second. However, but on the field, Ron Rivera talked about, this was a good practice for the defense, all that good jazz. Talked about Chase Young, his development, him looking great out there. He talked about Peyton Barber losing some weight and getting into better shape. And he said, I do not expect this to hinder him in the physicality department whatsoever. I expect him to still be just as physical. He has a good pad level that he runs with, good center of gravity and low center of gravity. And he said, I expect him to be the same player, just faster. So for those of you ready to count Peyton Barber out of this thing, I contend that he's not going anywhere. That's one of Ron's guys. And I think Ron continues to sing the praises of one Peyton Barber, and he said he looks to be in fantastic shape. Ron also talked about the team and really getting these guys on the same page and how all of this stuff takes time and that, you're continuing to see these guys develop, but obviously it's not going to happen overnight. So you get to the players, and we start with Jonathan Allen. I always love hearing Jonathan Allen speak because, he is not about the bullshit. He always comes up and comes off as a guy that's no nonsense, that's going to tell it to you just the way it is, how he feels at that time. If you catch him after a loss and he's pissed off and they didn't play well, he's going to let you know about it, and there are going to be some expletives in there. And they asked him, and he's not one of these dudes that wants to talk about what he thinks we're going to do or what this looks like or what that looks like. He's not that guy. Chase Young threw the quote out there yesterday that on paper we look like we can be a number one defense, but we got to go out and do it. So everybody, all those reporters, they love to throw that quote around and throw those types of quotes around to other players to see what their reaction is going to be. Jonathan Allen's not the one. So, of course, he's like, yeah, that's cool. And while he's not wrong, we do have talent, and I'm excited about that talent. That shit don't mean nothing until we start playing games. He's like, look, at the end of the day, my job is to go out and kick the other guy's ass that's out in front of me. Whether it's the run game, the pass game, it really doesn't matter to me. And so he wasn't really looking to try to, harp on that. They threw the leadership question to him, which he's been a leader really for the last 2 years or so. And he's like, yeah, look, Kerrigan's gone. Morgan Moses is gone. I can't replace those guys by myself as a leader. It's a group collaborative effort. But at the end of the day, I'm trying to lead by example. That's really what I'm going to do. I'm not really the rah-rah type of guy. And, he is the guy that's going to go over there and chew somebody's ass out. Or if we come out flat and lethargic. I've seen him on the sidelines, going up and down the sideline, pacing, talking to all these dudes and getting in their ass. So he is the leader on this team, whether he wants to be or not. And I think he knows that. And everybody acknowledges that Jonathan Allen is one of the leaders. And then speaking of which, that's a great segue. He's getting an extension, guys. And I think I've already said this to you. He's getting an extension before the start of camp. I truly believe that he's going to get an extension before the start of training camp. He was asked about a potential contract extension. He said, look, I want to be here. I want to remain in Washington. This is my home. I grew up here. I went to high school here. My family lives here. This is where I want to be. He said, I've always envisioned myself playing for one team my entire career. This is where I want to be, and I believe him. And he said, the direction of the program right now is the best it's been since I've been here, I being Jonathan Allen. He said, I've seen so much change and so much turnover since I've gotten here, and this is the first time where everybody's coming back. Same coaching staff, all the players are back. We feel really good about where we are, but we still got to go out and do it. So Jonathan Allen, he said, negotiations are going well. They're talking, there's communication, but, there's nothing imminent necessarily. He's like, I don't have anything to report to you. Just know that the communication is there and both sides are talking, and I like the progress that's been made. So I think something's going to get done sooner rather than later. Obviously, right now, you've got camp going on, and so I don't think there's a lot of dialogue being had between the two sides. But once this is over, after tomorrow, and there's this long break before you get the players back for training camp, I think that's the window they have to get it done, and I think it will get done. And Jonathan Allen will be signed to an extension to stay here in Washington. Montez Sweat was the most polarizing interview of the day. So, first of all, this is who Montez Sweat is. The interview, if you watched it, nothing there. No meat on that bone. Montez does not want to do this. You can tell he has no interest in talking to the media whatsoever. The only reason he's here, to quote a wise man, so he doesn't get fined, okay? Obligated to do this, so he's checking it off the list. And they ask him a question, you might get 3-4 words out of him, and that's it. You're waiting for a follow-up, and he's got nothing for you. You try to probe, and you ask another question, you might get a one-word answer, okay? Montez was not there for the shits, and so they asked him a question like, hey, how do you think you improved last year? He said, man, I think I improved a lot. Well, how do you feel like you improved? You know, I improved in all areas. I mean, that was Montez Sweat. Like, I really don't want to talk to y'all. So unless you ask me some questions that are going to make me talk and actually give you more than a 4 to 5 word answer, this is what you get. So they asked him about COVID. And this was the one that actually triggered him, you know, and got him to actually speak in more than 3-4 word answers. They asked him about COVID and Ron Rivera having the specialist come out to speak to the team. And, you know, was he a fan of that? And, you know, was he a fan of getting vaccinated, or was he vaccinated? And he just pretty much, this was the most they got out of him in the entire interview, which is odd because he seemed like he just, if anything, he just wanted to talk football, which he really didn't even want to talk that. But he said, nah, I'm not really a fan of it. And, you know, it's a choice. And I don't really feel the need to, you know, to get vaccinated. And nah, I'm not a big fan of it at all. So then, of course, after hearing that, they want more. So they keep asking him, and they keep probing and poking. And they're like, hey, so, you know, why, if you don't mind me asking? And he's like, well, it's a choice. You know, of course, they want everybody around here to get vaccinated. And, you know, but we have the choice to say no. And I don't want to get a vaccine. And he's like, I haven't gotten COVID, which I didn't necessarily care for his answer, but it's not my decision. I don't give a shit. I mean, he didn't care what I think. And honestly, he can make whatever decision he wants to make. I get it. I totally understand why he doesn't want to get the vaccine, but he's like, I don't want to get it because I haven't gotten COVID yet. When I get COVID, then I'll you know, kind of treat it then. Not necessarily the answer you're looking for, but who gives a shit? That's his feeling on it, on the matter. Cool. You move on. So that was really the meat and potatoes of what Montez Sweat had to offer today. Was his conversation was more steered towards, you know, vaccination and COVID-19 more so than football. And look, Montez wasn't giving those dudes anything anyway. Sadiq Charles, very interesting conversation. I can tell he's growing. He's maturing. Sounds totally different than the guy I heard last year speaking to the media. He's a different guy. He's in a different headspace. He's locked in, and he's gained 20 pounds. And I don't know the math that the beat reporter was doing there. I want to say it was Michael Phillips of the Richmond Times-Dispatch. It might have been one of these other dudes out there, but man, they was like, he told him, at LSU, I was 295 pounds. I'm now 315. And the guy said, so what did you do to gain 45 pounds? And Sadiq goes, what? I know I didn't major. He didn't say this, but he was probably thinking this. I know I didn't major in math, but how the hell did you get 45 pounds out of 315 minus 295? Like, I don't know. And, you know, a lot of people aren't good at math, but damn, that's a reach. That's a hard miss. Anyway, he's like, nah, 40, 45, what? I gained 20 pounds, man. And you know, they asked him about breakfast, what he's eating. Like, some of these questions, I'm like, really, guys? Seriously? So he tells you he gains 20 pounds. Well, what are you eating? What's your diet look like? Like, are these the best questions you guys can come up with? Because if this is the best you got, Sadiq's probably got better shit to do. Like, anyway, I digress. I don't need to get on my soapbox. So he talks about his diet and things of that nature, but they asked him specifically where has he been working this offseason, and he's like, yeah, I've been working at both tackle, left and right, and I've been working at guard. And so they were like, well, which position are you most comfortable at? And he's like, I'm just comfortable on the football field. I thought that was a beautiful answer. I mean, magnificently handcrafted and delivered. Like, you didn't get much better than that. What position are you better at? Which one are you more comfortable? Man, I'm comfortable on the football field in the green grass. Wherever they put me, that's where I'm playing. Woo! I said, Sadiq, I see you, baby. I love it. He's dialed in. He's locked in, and he's putting in work. And Rivera has talked about Sadiq Charles' progress multiple times this offseason, and he said, I've been here the entire offseason. That's dedication, and that's a smart move, okay? To be up under the coaches so they see your progress the entire time, every step of the way. They see what Sadiq is doing. That resonates with them. He's like, yeah, I was down working with Chad Englehart, who's the strength and conditioning coach. He's like, yeah, I've been working with him. I got a nutritionist. I've been eating right, and I've been here working, and I've been rehabbing and doing everything here at the facility. So I'm telling you, Sadiq, I would not be shocked. If he stays healthy, and this is a big if because he hasn't done it yet, but if he stays healthy this offseason into training camp through preseason, I would not be shocked if Sadiq Charles is starting in one of those 3 vacant positions that are up for grabs on the offensive line. I'm not saying, I'm just saying. And then finally, Dax Milne spoke to the media, the rookie wide receiver in the 7th round taken out of BYU. And he talked about his versatility, essentially saying, look, I know that in order for me to have a realistic shot of making this roster, I'm going to probably have to prove my worth on special teams. The team currently doesn't have a true punt returner right now. And he said the first thing they had me do when I showed up for the rookie minicamp a couple of weeks ago was field punts. And he said, I showed them that I'm comfortable back there fielding kicks. And it's something I did in college. They took me off of punt returns because my role grew and expanded so much so on the offensive side that I was too valuable there, and they took me off of punts. But it's something I can do, and it's a position that I can help this team at. So he understands that's more likely than not his entrance, his ticket, if you will, onto the roster if he legitimately wants to make it onto the team. So he talked about some of the pitfalls of being a rookie and having to adjust to the way things are done here. He's talked about the footwork and some of the things he's had to get down pat, transitioning from college to the NFL and how they do things a little differently. But he said the transition has gone a lot smoother of late. It was a little choppy early, but he's starting to catch on. And, he's been really riding the coattails of guys like Adam Humphries and Terry McLaurin and kind of picking their brains when he can. So he's continuing to grow and learn. And he said he's looking forward to the opportunity to work with some of these guys that are in that wide receiver room. So that was day number 2 of mandatory minis as the defense dominated again. They did it again. Not surprised because there's less turnover on that side of the ball and more continuity there. And there's a ton of turnover and a lot of new faces on the offensive side. So obviously there are going to be some growing pains. And it's going to be an adjustment process and period for that offense. And they're going to have to gel and mesh. This is the time you want them to make the mistakes. And again, what are we talking about? Like the 3rd or 4th practice they've had together? Like, this is to be expected. So don't overreact. But it's good to hear. Look, I always say this about guys that go to smaller schools. Only thing I ask that you do is dominate the competition. You can't help who they put in front of you. All you can do is dominate them. The defense is ready to go. If the offense isn't, that's not their problem. All they can do is dominate. That's what they're doing. If you're a good unit, you're supposed to dominate an inferior unit. And right now, the offense is inferior. So if you're defensively dominant, dominate them. They're not ready yet. Then take care of business. That's the sign of a dominant defense. I love to hear that the defense is taking care of business. When the offense gets their shit together, then it should be a little bit more even, and these battles should become a lot more hotly contested. But right now, the offense is trying to figure it out. You got a new quarterback. You got 3 different new offensive linemen. You got all these different receivers. Everything's different. Okay, kick their ass. That's what the defense is doing. That's a really good sign to me that the defense is in midseason form. So That's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. I am a Washington fan, etched in burgundy and gold. My Washington spirit will never die. Washington spirit will never fold until we meet again. Hail to our beloved Washington football team. I will be back on Thursday night for the Washington Report Live, Washington Football Report Live. We will have so much to talk about all week of OTAs. We'll have that to discuss. We'll talk about day number 3 of OTAs, and we'll talk about all topics under the sun regarding this team, as we will pretty much be in that dead period between, the end of the last minicamp and training camp. So there will be essentially no news with players. Hopefully no news is good news with players up until the end of July. I think only thing we might get in between that time period is a Jonathan Allen extension, but we shall see. In any event, get off the bench, get in the game, and kick it with me, your man, Louie T, here on the Louie T Network. Thank you guys for joining me. Make sure, if you haven't already done so, please hit that subscribe button, turn on that notification bell so you don't miss a thing, and hit the like button if you haven't already done so as well. That's going to do it for me. See you guys next time. Have a good one.
LouieTeeNetwork.